Quick disclaimer before this video gets started. I am not a paleontologist. I am a high school student. I'm aware of the style conventions, the sciences at the time, and why he is designed this way. This video is purely for the fun of it. Sorry about the audio quality. Right, so if you don't know who Rudy is. There you go. He's a baryonyx. Or at the very least is supposed to be. His design is what you'd expect from an Ice Age film, mostly accurate with exaggerated features here and there for interest, but we're going to disregard design intentions and such. We're speaking only in terms of accuracy here. My main general issues with his design, purely from an accuracy standpoint, are size, the proportions, and his general anatomy. Super specific, I know. To kick off talking about these issues, let's start with his size. According to these size estimates I found, he's about the size of an Argentinosaurus. The upper size estimates for a baryonyx, his species, are about 36 feet long and 8 feet tall. He's nearly triple that. To correct this, while still keeping in mind he's meant to be the big bad of the film, with the emphasis being on big, I'll make him a bit bigger than these upper estimates, more the size of a large Spinosaurus. Moving on to his proportions. His head is far too large, along with his hands, which, yes, is a style thing, but we are disregarding that, remember? His body is short and wide-set, an odd choice for a Spinosaur, and it makes his arms look far too thin in comparison. His short body also makes his tail look small and his legs too long. In general, he just looks squished in some areas and weirdly extruded in others. Speaking of the arms, his wrists are pronated, something to be expected from this media, but it is inaccurate for the species nonetheless. The iconic first claw of the baryonyx is not to be found, as all the claws are the same length, making him lose some of the little species identity he has. The proportionately short length of his tail is a design trait I find odd, considering they leaned heavily into the crocodilian aspect of him. They gave him osteoderms, something that there's no fossil evidence of in any Spinosaurid currently, to presumably mimic the large scales that crocodilians have on their backs, and gave him the teeth of a crocodilian as well, seeing as he has no lips. Not technically, anyways. What I mean by that is crocodilians had little need for proper lips, as they spend the bulk of their time submerged in water. Baryonyx presumably did not, and thus would most likely have had some form of lips like most other reptiles without beaks. For my redesign of Rudy, I will go with a lip structure that is more akin to a marine iguana or a monitor lizard. Onto his snout. Rudy has a short snout that reminds me more of a gharial than an alligator or crocodile, as it is engorged where the nose is instead of being thin in dorsal and anterior view, along with the nostrils being too far forward on the snout. He is additionally missing the crest characteristic of Spinosaurids above its antorbital fenestra, seemingly in favor of the previously mentioned osteoderms. Speaking of its antorbit, let's talk about eyes. They are incorrectly placed on the front of the face, if that makes sense, instead of on the sides facing forward like they should be. I don't really have a problem with his colors, surprising, I know. Albinism, though rare, is entirely possible and has been documented in reptiles among many other species. Not without some form of drawback, though. For example, most animals with albinism, take bronze, Corodora for example, have some form of eye problems. Mainly depth perception issues and light sensitivity issues. This lack of melanin can cause depth perception issues as well as light sensitivity issues. Along with these vision challenges, they also have increased sensitivity to sunlight physically. As they lack melanin, they're very sensitive to things like sunburns. And because they are stark white, there is a reduced level of survivability as they lack proper camouflage. Basically, what I'm saying is Rudy's chance of survival, let alone growing that large, would have been extremely low. All this being said, it's not entirely improbable, just very, very unlikely. The thing that's highly unlikely was his vocalizations. For those of you that don't want to look that up separately, I'll play a small clip now. Now, I say him making these sounds would be unlikely. I say that because the sound design for Rudy was created mostly by the sounds of elephants. An unsurprising fact, most dinosaur vocalizations in media are made with mammals instead of reptiles. A set of vocalizations that I've found that are potentially more accurate, yet still carry the same sort of vibe, comes from the YouTube channel known as Studio. These vocalizations are a part of their speculative vocalization project that they've been working on since around 2020. I'll play a longer section of these so you can get the general idea. believe those vocals were made entirely with the sounds of other reptiles, but I'm getting a bit off topic here. I should really be talking about my redesign for him, so let's get on to that. To start, I'd alter the shape of his head to look something more like this. I'd change the position of his eyes and give him some form of lip. Then I'd make the scar on his snout bigger and a more prominent character trait. I would extend the length of his body and tail a bit. Additionally, I would make his tail more Spinosaurus or crocodile-like. Bulk up his arms and give his wrists the proper orientation while lengthening his big main claw. I would then remove the osteoderms in favor of a more actual crocodile scale pattern on the back, because as stated previously, there's no evidence of them having osteoderms. And that's pretty much it. I kept him as albino for these pieces of art, but for those of you who would probably like to see him with a more quote-unquote accurate design, here's this one. With a couple different color palettes, so here's those. Tried to keep the colors as more swampy, natural type colors, and then I did this piebald one because I thought that might be an interesting concept. And that basically covers it for my Rudy redesign video. If you made it to the end, thank you, I really do appreciate it. And if you want, please check out my other social medias. Thank you for watching. Bye!